Hello everyone. Let me ask you something, how would it feel to suddenly understand what women are really thinking? Surprising? Magical? Maybe even terrifying? Well, today's recap is all about that wild ride of emotions. We're diving into the charming and hilarious romantic comedy titled What Women Want. So grab your popcorn and let's jump right into it. And hey, don't forget to subscribe for more fun movie recaps like this one. This is the story of Nick Marshall, a successful advertising executive who was raised in a world full of women thanks to his mom's job in a cabaret. Growing up without a father figure, the only men he looked up to were the type who were always with a different woman each night. And over time, Nick became just like them. His day usually starts with him waking up after another romantic night. As he gets ready for work, he never misses a chance to flirt or touch any woman he finds attractive. Even though his behavior isn't exactly respectful, things always seem to go in his favor. For example, a waitress who just rejected him moments ago? He still manages to charm her into going on a date. When he gets to the office, it's clear that his actions make many of his female co-workers uncomfortable. But that's Nick, confident, charming, and totally unaware of how others truly feel. All that's about to change when something unexpected gives him the power to hear women's thoughts. And with that, his world turns completely upside down. During a high-stakes meeting, Nick sits confidently, expecting to hear the long-awaited news of his promotion. But to his surprise, the company announces a different decision. The position is going to a woman named Darcy. The leadership believes that putting a woman at the forefront of their new product strategy is the right direction. Nick is stunned. This wasn't part of his plan. But that's not the only twist in his life right now. His ex-wife is getting remarried, and as she heads off on her honeymoon, Nick is left in charge of their daughter for the week. Yet, even with this added responsibility, Nick's attention is still fixed on the office and the mysterious new woman stepping into the role he wanted. When he finally meets Darcy, he quickly sizes her up. Others around the room are skeptical too, but Darcy wastes no time proving herself. With a confident presence, she presents a bold campaign idea designed to connect the company more deeply with female consumers. She even challenges the men in the room to step into a woman's shoes, literally, by testing out a box full of feminine products. Her approach is daring, different, and exactly what the company needs. Nick's skepticism only grows. To him, all these so-called feminine products seem like nothing more than silly distractions. Even though he works for a company focused on women, he still sees them as nothing more than objects. Still, he decides to play along with Darcy's campaign and try out some of the products, not because he believes in it, but just to prove a point. Back at home, his personal life isn't faring any better. Although he's now responsible for his teenage daughter, Nick is disconnected. He doesn't truly listen to her, barely engaging in their conversations. When she introduces a boy she likes, Nick can't even remember his name later. Their conversation ends in frustration. She storms off, hurt that her father doesn't seem to care. But something shifts in Nick. After a moment of reflection, the boy's name suddenly clicks. Regretful, he rushes to apologize to his daughter. As he makes his way through the apartment, disaster strikes. He slips, falls into the bathtub, and accidentally electrocutes himself with a hairdryer. Nick lies unconscious on the floor, until the cleaning lady walks in and revives him. And that's when things take a strange turn. Nick begins to sense something isn't right. Though the cleaning lady's lips don't move, he can clearly hear her thoughts. Confused and unnerved, he brushes it off until he arrives at the office. That's when it hits him. He can hear what every woman is thinking. Not what they say, what they think. At first, it's amusing, but quickly, it becomes overwhelming. He hears everything, from wild inner monologues to shocking confessions. He almost killed me, too bad he didn't. Worse, the women who smile and laugh around him? What an idiot. He's shaken. The truth is loud and brutal. The thoughts come at him non-stop, an endless chorus of voices inside his head. It's driving him mad. Desperate, Nick confides in his colleague. But his partner doesn't buy it. Don't say this stuff out loud, Nick, you'll get yourself fired. He warns Nick to keep it together, and more importantly, to focus. Their next big meeting with Darcy is around the corner, and Nick's job is on the line. Nick tries to brainstorm, hoping his new ability will give him an edge, but it's no use. Despite hearing women's thoughts, he still can't think like one. Frustrated and exhausted, he heads home. In a moment of desperation, he decides to recreate the freak accident. Maybe if he repeats every step, he can either turn the voices off or understand them better. So, he covers himself in women's products again, grabs the hairdryer, and steps into the pouring rain. A flash of lightning. A surge of electricity. He faints again. Nick wakes up in his armchair, drenched and dazed. His first thought? Is it over? He searches for someone, any woman, to test if the voices are gone. But the apartment is quiet. Still unsure, he rushes out and heads to the nearest shopping mall, hoping to find out once and for all. At first, everything feels normal. No voices. No chaos. A wave of relief washes over him. Maybe it really is over. But then, it starts again. A passing woman thinks something wildly inappropriate, and Nick flinches. The thoughts are back. Out of options, Nick turns to someone who once tried to help him, his old therapist, the same one who once counseled him and his ex-wife. She listens politely, but like most women, she thinks he's full of it. That is, until Nick starts repeating her exact inner thoughts out loud. Stunned, she drops her pen. Now convinced, she debates whether to send him to a neurologist or a priest. But then, she leans in and says something that changes everything. Nick, you're holding gold. For the first time in history, you know exactly what women want. Use it. With his ego recharged, Nick starts playing a new game. He becomes nicer, more thoughtful, seemingly a changed man. But it's all surface. When he's with Darcy, his new boss, he uses her thoughts against her, stealing her brilliant campaign ideas and presenting them as his own. The executives are wowed. Nick's star rises fast. But behind every compliment and every smile is a secret. One stolen from the mind of a woman who trusted him. Darcy, unaware that Nick is reading her every thought, starts believing he's a creative genius. His pitches hit every mark. His timing? Perfect. And his understanding of women's needs? Uncanny. She's impressed. Everyone is. Meanwhile, Nick is riding high. Watching his competition fade, he keeps using his stolen insights to win over both clients and colleagues. He offers to help his daughter shop for a prom dress, a moment that begins to thaw their rocky relationship. That night, he also goes on a date with the waitress he had previously tried to charm. While it begins awkwardly, Nick's ability to read her thoughts turns the evening around. With every move and every word, he plays the perfect man, saying just the right things at the right time. It works. She's smitten. Nick continues his streak, polite, thoughtful, even charming. To the women around him, he seems like a dream come true. But behind the curtain, he's still siphoning ideas from Darcy, using her brilliance to climb the corporate ladder. Darcy, meanwhile, begins to sense something's off. Despite her instincts warning her not to fall for a coworker, she can't help developing feelings for Nick. She tells herself over and over again, "Don't fall for a guy at work. Don't fall for a guy at work." But it's already too late. Her heart is leaning in toward the very man betraying her. At the mall, things are tense. Nick tries to bond with her, hoping this shared moment might heal old wounds. Afterward, over lunch, he nervously brings up a difficult topic, sex, knowing she plans to take a big step with her boyfriend. But the conversation crashes. His daughter, still hurt by years of neglect, refuses to accept that he's changed. She storms out, leaving Nick stunned, realizing that words aren't enough, he needs to truly show up as a father. Later that night, Nick receives a call from Darcy. They meet up for dinner, a real date. Over candlelight and quiet conversation, she opens up. Darcy reveals she was once married, but her husband didn't truly love her. That heartbreak made her wary, a woman who leads with strength but hides her scars. For the first time, Nick truly sees her, not as a rival, or a source of ideas, but as a woman of depth, talent, and resilience. As Nick spends more time with Darcy, something inside him begins to shift. He's no longer just reading her mind, he's starting to feel her pain. They grow closer, and their moments together begin to blur the lines between work and something far more personal. But before anything can blossom further, Nick has to keep a promise, taking his daughter shopping for a prom dress. They kiss. But it's not like the others, not like Nick's usual conquests. Darcy is different. And in that moment, he knows it. After their heartfelt evening, Nick decides not to follow his old patterns. He politely declines Darcy's invitation to her apartment, choosing to take things slow. For the first time, he's not chasing a night, he's building a connection. As he arrives at his building, he finds the waitress he had previously dated waiting for him. She had taken their night together more seriously and is visibly upset at being ghosted. Not wanting to hurt her again, Nick takes the easy way out, he lies, telling her he's gay. It's a desperate attempt to spare her feelings, but it's clear Nick's past is catching up to him. Back at work, the pressure is building. Nick continues to ride the wave of Darcy's brilliant ideas, passing them off as his own. The company is on the verge of closing a major deal, thanks to the new campaign. To ease his guilt, Nick suggests that Darcy be the one to present the pitch. It seems like a gesture of goodwill, but deep down, he knows it's not enough. He's still living a lie. And lies, especially the ones built on someone else's talent, can only last so long. Darcy, now fully in love with Nick, refuses his offer to present the campaign. She insists he deserves the credit, unaware that it was never his to begin with. Nick is torn. The weight of his deception grows heavier. But he still delivers the presentation, sealing the biggest deal of his career. Back at home, guilt eats away at him. Determined to come clean, Nick begins writing a heartfelt letter. A full confession, explaining how he stole her ideas and asking for forgiveness. But before he can finish, Darcy arrives, full of joy. She invites him to celebrate at a house she just bought, still being renovated, still unfinished. But full of hope for a new beginning. They spend the night dancing in the empty space, laughing, connecting. There's no fancy setting, no distractions, just two people slowly falling for each other. Meanwhile, time ticks on for Nick. He knows the truth is coming for him. The question is, will love survive it? As Nick and Darcy dance beneath the dim light of her newly purchased, yet unfinished, home, a wave of unease hits him. Something doesn't feel right. He soon learns the truth, the promotion he received was never meant for him. It had originally been reserved for Darcy. But since she didn't technically contribute to the campaign, thanks to Nick stealing her ideas, the company had fired her. The decision was final, and Darcy had quietly accepted it. Realizing the depth of his mistake, Nick rushes to his boss, pleading for Darcy's reinstatement. He confesses that the entire campaign was built on her ideas and her inspiration. Without her, none of it would have been possible. Surprisingly, the boss agrees. Darcy is rehired, just like that. But Nick's redemption isn't over yet. That same day, Nick remembers a young woman from the office, a quiet girl he had overheard in distress. She'd been dealing with suicidal thoughts, and today, she didn't show up to work. Fearing the worst, Nick races out into the pouring rain. Drenched, desperate, and driven by guilt and concern, he searches for her address. Confused, he stops to ask an old woman for help. She points him toward a narrow, shadowy alley. Overhead, a set of exposed wires sizzle and spark, but Nick doesn't slow down. He charges forward, heart pounding, and finally arrives at the girl's door, ajar, swinging slightly in the wind. Inside, silence. Nick enters the dimly lit apartment and spots a note on the table. It's a suicide letter. Panic hits him like a freight train. He rushes through the place until he finds the young woman alive. Thankfully, it had all been a misunderstanding. But the emotions were real. She had written the note in a moment of deep despair. That's when Nick notices something else, the constant noise, the endless flood of voices in his head, is gone. The ability to read women's thoughts has disappeared, just as mysteriously as it arrived. But there's no time to process that. He sits down with the young woman and offers her not just comfort, but hope. A better position at work, a fresh path forward, something to focus on, because her life still matters. With one crisis averted, Nick races to find Darcy, desperate to explain everything. He makes it to her apartment, but she doesn't want to see him. Heartbroken, confused, and angry, Darcy chooses silence over confrontation. In the middle of all this, Nick suddenly remembers something critical: his daughter. Her school dance. The promise he made. He rushes to the venue only to find her locked in the bathroom, crying. Her boyfriend had abandoned her when she told him she wasn't ready for sex. In that moment, Nick doesn't try to be wise or clever. He simply shows up as a father, finally present, finally listening. Nick stood before Darcy, vulnerable for the first time, not with charm or clever lines, but with the truth. He confessed everything. That he had been able to hear her thoughts. That he stole her ideas. And that it was a selfish, cowardly mistake he now deeply regrets. Most importantly, he told her what mattered most. He had truly fallen in love with her, not because he could hear her thoughts, but because of the woman she was beyond them. Darcy listened silently. Then, with a heavy heart, she made her decision. Though she had been rehired, she was still his superior. And despite her feelings, she chose to fire Nick. Not out of spite, but because what he did couldn't be ignored. That was the end of their relationship. Or at least, it seemed like it. But it's not the end. She also felt something for him. She forgave and come back to him to live a life with love, care, and trust. But as we know, love has a way of finding its path. Though deeply hurt, Darcy couldn't deny her own feelings. She had seen a real change in Nick, beneath the charm and ego. There was now a man who had learned empathy, respect, and love. In time, she forgave him. Not because he was perfect, but because he was willing to grow, to change, and to truly listen. She came back to him, not as a boss, not as a rival, but as a woman ready to start a life built not on secrets, but on love, care, and trust. And that's where our movie recap ends. A heartfelt reminder that no relationship can thrive without honesty. And that real love begins when we truly understand one another. Here our movie recap ends. We learn that relationship built and grow with trust and love. Don't forget to comment about this movie. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comments. Did you enjoy What Women Want? Let us know.